how do you measure money? How do the rich measure money versus how do the poor measure their money? Does anybody know? How do rich people measure money versus poor people? Does anybody know? In the chat, does anybody know how does a rich person measure money and how does a poor person measure money? How does a rich person measure money versus a poor person? Does anybody know? Well, let's talk about it. Cheap versus expensive. Right here. What is cheap versus what is expensive? If you go to somebody who's poor, okay? If you go to somebody who's poor and you say, hey, let's go to the Louis Vuitton store. Okay, perfect. Let me go buy $1,000, $2,000 bag, $5,000 bag. A bag would be like $3,000. Some people would tell you that it's cheap, right? Other people would tell you that's expensive. Why? Because you correlate money with the time and effort that it took you to get it. So if a $3,000 bag took you 6 weeks of work and time, you're going to measure, right, the purchase. It's not cheap or expensive, right? The lingo needs to change. It's, damn, I spent a lot of time for this money. I don't know if I want to spend it on this thing. Now, if you're making $3,000 an hour, what is $3,000? So what you need to understand is that when you make money, when you earn money, you need to correlate it based on how much effort it requires you in time and energy to yield that return. Do you understand? So, I'm in the business of optimizing my return on my time. That is the business that I'm in. So I want the biggest output for the least amount of input. But in order to do that, I need to become skilled. Skilled. If you are not skillful with your time and the value of your time, how are you supposed to have more of it, right? So a lot of you guys are exchanging your most valuable asset, which is time, for an imaginary asset that is known as money. Most of you guys are expending energy. That's what the system wants you for, energy. You're an expenditure of energy, and in return, they'll give you coupons, monopoly money. Do you understand? So what you need to do now is it doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter. If you're working 18 hours a day, right? If you're working 18 hours a day, you need to ask yourself, okay, let's say I make $1,000 and I work 10 hours a day, then my hour is worth $100. That is what your hour is worth. It doesn't matter if you make 30 grand a month. Your hour of time is capped at $100. That is what your hour is worth. So what was the first thing that I did? I said, okay, if I have my own vacation and I work 40 hours a week and I want to make $1 million a year, how many hours do I have to work and how much should my hour be worth in order for me to be a millionaire?